Tell me, why did you start a blended family focused firm?
So as a blended family ourselves, we understand that even when things are good, they are still more complicated. And unless you're a blended family, it's really kind of hard to relate and understand those additional complexities. So when we were considering this as our niche, we really found that people were so hungry for a way to connect with other people in that way. We have a huge heart for serving other blended families and giving them advice and hope and encouragement. And there's lots of other planners out there that specialize in different life stages or different careers, but there was really no one tapping into the specialization of blended families. And so we just feel so blessed to have the opportunity to help restore the family unit and come alongside these blended families so they can get their financial lives in order and have more time to focus on their family and things that are important to them.
Do you feel like the blended families that come to you feel relieved after they have found somebody that gets them?
Until you're in that situation, you don't understand parenting schedules and communication with an ex-spouse, and you still have the same goals and aspirations of any family.
Right.
But then you have these extra things, and it's hard to explain it to someone when they don't understand parenting time guidelines for holidays or, what schedule are you on? And we're dealing with this communication issue with one of the ex-spouses. Should I be concerned about this or should I just let it go? Those conversations come up a lot during our meetings. And so, unless you've done it, and I know you're in the same situation, unless you've done it, you can't explain it to someone. So as soon as someone realizes you're in that tribe, it's an immediate connection.
Yeah, I identify with that enough personally that I'm excited to have found the two of you. And
yeah.
You're not even helping me with my finances, but yeah, I totally get that. What have you learned about blended family finances specifically that you think everyone should know?
For me, and I kind of foreshadow a little bit here, you still have the same financial planning needs. People still want to know they're on track for retirement. They still want an investment plan, tax plans, things like that. But they just don't even know where to begin because they still have those same things that a traditional family has. And now they've got all these added complexities and they're just paralyzed. How do you flowchart out estate plans? I find estate plans seem to be very overwhelming for people. And if we can just get on a whiteboard together and flowchart that out and talk about it, you just see the relief. We thought this was too hard to even solve. And not only can you solve it, but you've done it before. So just giving them the confidence that we can tackle this, it's no problem. We'll get through it. So I think on estate plans, insurance beneficiaries, I can't tell you how many times I find an ex-spouse on a beneficiary designation. It's almost 100% of the time. Even when people tell me, hey, I looked through all my accounts when I got divorced, I took care of it. I know that's taken care of. Just last week, new client joined us and the largest account that new prospect had was in the ex-spouse's name. And we told them that, and it was just, the face was just flush. I'm changing that right now. And then they became a client. They're like, this is what I need. I thought I could handle it, but reviewing the divorce decrees, can't tell you how many times that ex-spouses at time of dissolving the marriage make certain commitments in that document that they'll do for one another, and they are so emotionally drained after the divorce process that they don't do it. Life insurance is one of them, especially on the kids. We had a situation where an ex-spouse, not our client, but the ex-spouse passed away, did not meet their life insurance obligations, and it was never called or realized until it was too late. And so I think that's a big thing that blended families need to help reviewing and make sure everything got done.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think those two things, life insurance beneficiaries, making sure that it's the right person, and then also making sure that you followed the divorce agreement that you've made, or in my case, it's whatever type of marital agreement you've made. For some people, it's a prenup. I think all planners get that concept too, because they see it as much as we do in terms of seeing a wrong beneficiary or just a missing beneficiary. And they also see people struggle to execute their own estate plans or stick to trust terms, things like that. Those are all really in the same vein of making sure you're following that plan, But when it comes to blended families, there are just some differences, like needing to focus on divorce agreements, for instance, I think are even easier to overlook. Like in all cases, it's kind of easy to move on with your life and forget the details of what you're supposed to be doing. But in those cases, like you said, it was usually such a stressful process. I think they're even more likely to just
and I don't
to move on.
I don't know that another advisor who hasn't been through the life experiences you and I have been through would even think to ask for the divorce decree. They would just ask the client, hey, is everything taken care of? Yes. Okay, great. Move on. Check that box. We like to really ask, like, would you mind sharing a copy of that? Would you mind if we skim through it and just make sure? Yeah, no problem. Yeah, here it is. And it adds so much value.
Yeah.
And it's easy. Yeah,
it is easy. That's really, like, I would love to get that message across to other planners too. It's not that it's complicated. It's just that you have to pay attention to it. I would love to get divorce agreements, and I would love to get marital agreements in general, get them to be part of everybody's standard checklist. And so it's just getting asked because it's normal, just like a will or a trust. You know, nobody's offended if you ask if they have a trust and they don't have a trust. It's becoming plenty common for people to have a divorce agreement.
40% of families are blended. A lot of that percentage makes up people who have been divorced.
What stories of complications that have come up for your blended family clients?
I think some of the stories that we bump into and that have resonated when we talk to people are our client's situation where the ex-spouse passed away, no life insurance for the kids. So now that client actually ended up bumping up their life insurance. So our client ended up adding insurance so that if something happened to them, the kids would be provided for as though both parents did have that insurance. So that was really good. Just where to begin on estate plans. We have not had any blended family client join us that has had their estate plans done. It just hasn't happened. And we even have clients that are, traditional first marriage families that come from blended families. And that has even allowed them to have conversations with their parents. Hey, mom, dad, I know we haven't had a talk about this. I started working with an advisor and I would just like to, a family meeting, is really what it comes down to is could we have a family meeting? We don't need to discuss numbers, but could I understand, have you and mom address that so that, I'm not adversely impacted. And those have been fantastic conversations. So family meetings is something we've added to our standard operating process this year, kind of like how you want to, for the SOP, you want to have marital agreements, divorce agreements, like family meetings and offering that, like, hey, can we have a sit down, whether you're our client or not, someone is in the family, would you like to have a conversation without any dollar signs to it on how things go?
And do you help facilitate those meetings?
Yes. So we're getting ready to schedule one here in the next couple of months. And in that situation, the parents are the client. And what they would like to do with their children is sit down and say, hey, we've put some plans in place. Because what you find in blended families, on a quick side note, is fair is not always equal. So because sometimes one spouse has children from prior relationships, sometimes both spouses have children from it, and sometimes they have children together and children from. So trying to make things fair to everyone does not necessarily mean equal.
It's like, what does that even mean?
And they have kids in different locations. So we're going to have a Zoom call and we're going to sit down and say, hey, we as advisors, Alexis and I are going to say, mom and dad wanted us to have this meeting. And we just want you to know if something were to happen to them, here's how things would work. And here's why they chose the distributions and the percentages that they did. And if you have any questions for mom and dad, now would be a great time to ask them so that they can add more color and clarity to the situation, because there's nothing worse than a car accident or something that takes someone's life short. And the last thing that child gets is a piece of paper with a percentage that doesn't match the other siblings. And they don't know why. No, they don't know what, did mom and dad love me less? Did I do something wrong in my life? No, it had nothing to do with that, son or daughter. It's simply because maybe you're doing so well off and your other kids chose professions that paid less. And we want to make sure you guys are all successful. So we give them a little bit more to them because they were in a lower paying profession, not less meaningful, it just paid less. That's why we did it, not because we love, oh, okay, great, thank you. So I think that's like been a big eye opener for us. And that's now part of the service model.
I love that. That's awesome. What do you think is the reason that the blended families that have come to you get there and they haven't even done an estate plan? Like, what is like the main obstacle?
I don't think the average person understands the estate planning process and all of the documents that make up the
They just
estate
don't
plan.
know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
they don't know where to begin.
You're not taught about it in school. And now a lot of, especially larger corporations, are offering estate planning services at a basic level.
Yeah, it's part of their employee assistant program or something.
Yeah. So we are seeing more of that and benefit packages. But yeah, outside of that, I think people just haven't heard about it.
Yeah. And I think those families that get to be blended families through divorce, when they get through that divorce like everything just gets back of the mind. I'm moving forward, and they just don't even want to revisit anything that's going to bring up any pain or any emotions with that. And so the fact that we can help counsel them without having to go back to relive those emotions, just still looking forward, I think that's where the value gets added.
I love that. I totally agree. I see a lot of that too. They don't know what they may or may not need, but what they know is they want somebody that will support their goal of having a future together.
Right.
And
right.
It's scary to think you might be opening up an opportunity for there to be tension or some other issue that you have to rehash that you just don't want to revisit.
Even for us, like, it's daunting to walk into a big mahogany office with suits and meet with attorneys. And I mean, you get anxiety in your pit of your stomach, like, man, it's going to cost me $1,000 to breathe the air in here. And because they already have a relationship with us, the guard's down, the trust is built. And they can have us start those conversations with them in an environment that they already feel comfortable with, so that when they do get to the point of talking to an attorney, they're already educated, they're knowledgeable. The terms that the lawyer's going to talk to them about, we've already talked to them about. It just makes the process so less anxious.
Yeah. That's awesome. Is there anything you would add that I haven't asked you?
I think one thing that we've learned about blended family finances is that striving for unity within your marriage is key. Blended families have so many moving parts and people and past experiences that can influence their decisions. And so getting on the same page with your spouse is so important in making financial decisions so that you guys can achieve goals together.
Yeah. Alexis and I don't like to prescribe any particular solution. We like to educate. So can a blended family be successful without a prenup? Yes. Can they be successful with a prenup? Yes. With a postnup? Yes. We like to talk to them about the pros and cons of all those solutions. Doing nothing, doing it before, doing it after. Whatever solution brings them closer together, that's the solution we want them to strive for. Because at the end of the day, we kind of take off our advisor hat and this becomes kind of a mission for us. Like, we want to prevent redivorce. So we're not only your financial advisors, but there is no bigger cheerleader for your marriage than Alexis and I. And we want to be cheering that on. So every time we're making steps together, we want to be making sure husband and wife are moving closer together. And so that can look differently for all families.
Yeah.
And it can look different in the same family. So where it starts today and where it ends up 5 years from now, 10 could be different. We could start with a prenup today, and then as trust and the realization that what happened in the past isn't going to happen in this relationship, that prenup can go away. So they may not have a prenup in 10 years, like they may dissolve it. And that's fine too, because we are still growing closer together. And if that's the direction they're headed, then Alexis and I are fine with whatever solution gets us there.
I think that's really great. Well, thank you both for all of your time and talking to me. Honestly, everything you shared was so helpful.
Good.
I think
no problem.
I think it's really helpful for people to hear, especially in your words, why some of those details that maybe aren't even that complex are so important in a blended family. It's easy to go on with your day-to-day life and not think about these things. And so it's really helpful to get this message out to people that it is important to get and to get some help if it's overwhelming, because just because you ignore it doesn't mean it's not potentially going to be an issue later.
Yep. Yep. At the end of the day, we love the work you're doing and we love the work we're doing. But at the end of the day, it's about the marriage for us. It's not about the money. The money is just one aspect of your marriage that we can help with. But for us, we want to see everyone building a solid marriage.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.